Hello again, everybody. Many people over the years have asked me, Vords, why does your curry taste so delicious? Now, I'm going to show you some of the tips that I use to make it a little bit extra tasty. So let's get to the cooking, shall we? So the first thing you're going to do is peel the garlic clove. And, you know, there are easier ways to do this, but, whatever. You want to make the slices fairly thin, so at the end of it all, you'll have a little pile of ovalish discs with holes in the middle, like this. Once you've peeled your onion, you want to cut it in half because, well, you won't need the whole thing for this part. I like to slice it at an angle, starting halfway down the onion. Now, I want to take a moment and tell you, never scrape the cutting edge of your knife like that. I mean, it's not at all good for the blade. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, we're looking for fairly thin slices that wind up, you know, crescent-shaped. Next, grab yourself a deep pan with tall sides and a lid. Set your fire to medium-high heat and drop some olive oil in there. Give it about a minute or two for your oil to get nice and angry, then add in your unsuspecting onions and garlic. You're going to want to add in just a bit of salt and pepper. Saute this for a few minutes until the onions are starting to get soft. Be careful though, too long and you'll overcook the garlic and spoil the flavor. Add in your meat and brown all the sides. It only takes a couple of minutes. Then add in enough water, about 6 cups, so the meat is completely submerged, and wait for the water to start boiling. And suddenly I've changed my shirt. Why? Well, why the hell not? So, now you've got this up to a boil, you want to turn it down. You want your heat at a low setting, just enough to keep the water lightly simmering, and cover. Now what you do is, since your family is away most of the day, you go to the nerd cave and you play video games. 2 hours later. So the meat's got about 30 minutes left to it, and it's time to start cutting up and working on the vegetables, but first, time to change my shirt again. And there! Actually, before we cut the vegetables, we're going to revisit the simmering meat for a bit. Take those 2 applesauce cups and empty them into the pan. Stir to make sure it's mixed in well. Return the cover, and time for vegetables! Next, you're going to peel and rinse off your carrots, rinse those creamer potatoes, and if you're like me, forget that you got carrot peels in your sink and come back to a mess later on. But let's move on. I cut the carrots into these wedge shapes. You don't have to, I guess, but this is the kind of meal that should not only taste good, but also be pleasing to look at. The little creamer potatoes, just cut those in half. The onion is simply chopped. I find it easiest to do it like this. Special seasoning! Now to season the vegetables, we're going to be using what I call Dave Special. This has 3 ingredients. Peppercorn melange, coriander seed, ground cardamom. What happens is I use a magic bullet to grind it up to kind of a coarse powder, and then I put that powder in here, and when I'm cooking I grind this up to a finer powder. In a different but similar pan, heat up some oil and dump in those cut veggies. Make sure everything is lightly coated with oil. Now this is meant to be a savory, robust dish, so I twist that spice grinder about 10 or so times. Cooking with freshly ground spices produces a marvelous aroma. Now you're going to continue to fry this until the onions are just about getting soft. Now this beef is ready to shred, plus we're going to need the water. So what we do is we take this out of there. Add that into there. Once you bring this to a boil, you're going to want to cover it and simmer for about 20 minutes. Shredding the beef! Shredding the beef is actually quite easy. I use a couple of forks to mash and pull it apart, and you wind up with a pile of tastiness that, well, looks like a bunch of threads, doesn't it? When there's about 5 minutes left on your timer, add the shredded beef to the simmering vegetables and stir well. Adding the roux. What I like to use is Java curry mixed with glico curry. You're not going to find this in most regular grocery stores in the United States. You're going to find them like at the Mitsuwa or the Marukai. This you're not going to find in the United States, probably not at all. We got this on a trip to Japan. There's also a guy on eBay that sells these. Now if you don't have a Marukai or a Mitsuwa near you, you might be able to find this at 99 Ranch Market. If they don't have Java curry, they might have Vermont curry, which I don't prefer. If you don't have any of those kind of stores near you, this brand right here is fairly common in US grocery stores. It is the sort of lowest tier though as far as curry roux mixes is concerned. I usually don't prefer to use it. Let's move on to the next step. You want to add half a box of the Java curry and half a box of the glico curry. Stir this until the roux is dissolved. Cover it up again, let it simmer for about 5 minutes. 5 minutes later. That's ready to eat. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the finished product, garnished with some fukujinsuke. Now, something I noticed in some curry places in Japan is they put your spoon into a glass of water. So I asked my wife, well, why do they do that? And her only answer was, I hate it when they do that. Which isn't really an answer or explanation, is it? So you might be saying to yourself, oh wow, Vords, that's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. My response to that is this: aren't your friends and or family worth it? Aren't you worth it? Think about that for a second, will you? You know what? You might have personality flaws, you might have bad habits, you might have made mistakes, but I bet you anything there's something awesome about each and every one of you. And you know what? Don't let anyone tell you that there isn't. Don't let some douchebag online tell you that there isn't, and especially, don't let someone you love tell you that you aren't, because you are awesome. All of you are. Thank you very much for watching. I'm out. Now to see... Now this beef is ready to shred, and we're gonna need... shit. Once you bring this to a bowl, yeah, sure. Jeez, Dave.